Good evening. Good evening. You've just joined the Severe Weather Shelter Volunteer Training event of 2021. We're getting ready, even though it seems like it's way too early for that cold weather that they keep telling us about. And so we'd like to make sure that when we do open the shelter, everybody feels prepared with answers, with resources, and with calm so that everything can go smoothly. We'll start by a few introductions and give us just a little bit about why you're interested in the shelter. Some of you are coming back, which is great. Some of you are joining us for the first year. And so I'll just say I'm Heidi Shepard from NUSA, and we're really excited that St. Dunstan's has stepped up again for the second year to host our severe weather shelter. They are quite generous congregation, and so we are very, very, very happy that we have a home for the shelter this year. We used it about 11 days, I believe, last year, and we don't think that there'll be any fewer this year, maybe even more. And so it's really critical that we have a warm and caring place to house the shelter. So now I'll introduce, I'll just go down the list so that I can see all of you. How about that? Celia?
Sure. Hi, I'm Celia Sodal, and I have been in email contact with most of you, all of you, I think, and I work for NUSA.
Okay, and Pastor Kelly?
I am Pastor Kelly Dolmanoth at Ronald United Methodist Church on Aurora, and happy to be here. I'm also part of the North Urban Human Services Alliance Board.
Excellent. He's our vice president. Okay, Bethany.
Hi, I'm Bethany Walbrook-Dunn. I am the City of Shoreline's Community Services Manager. So I will be your main contact when it comes to all of the volunteer requirements, and then kind of the paperwork part. And then the city also funds a housing outreach worker that will be on site every time it's activated from Lake City Partners to just be there to assist the volunteers in setup, and then in the morning to departure as well, and then also to be a resource for the folks that are using the shelter. Again, trying to make those connections to get folks into some sort of other housing, maybe even in taking them to the enhanced shelter that's now located in Shoreline. So, and Heidi was right, that's about how many days. And I'm just checking the data from last year. The guest count, the highest night was 10 and the fewest was 2. And we did do a 6-day stretch that Lisa was able to get volunteers for that wintry time in February last year. So I think the year before is about the same as well. Mm-hmm. So just a little bit of data. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, Anthea.
Hi, I am a single mom who lives in Lake Forest Park. This is my 3rd winter volunteering for this amazing endeavor. And yeah, I'm so grateful to be involved with this. It's such a worthy project. So thank you to everyone who has been involved from the start.
Well, we appreciate your coming every year. It's great. And Kenneth, hello again.
Everybody, I'm Kenneth Brink, and I live in Lake Forest Park as well. I just moved back to Washington this May from Alaska, and I was working at a similar shelter that was put on through our church in Alaska. So when I heard about this project, I was excited about the opportunity to potentially get involved.
Thank you. Great. It might not be as cold as Alaska. I don't know. We have to wait and see. Okay, Florence.
I just worked 1 year last year, and I think I only worked 1 day actually out of those 11. And I'm at Shoreline Covenant Church, and we decided if we were going to be asking folks in our congregation to volunteer, maybe one of us on the committee for the community should also volunteer. So here I am.
Excellent. And one day when you don't have shelter is the most important day of the year. So thanks for being there. Okay, Michael.
Hi, my wife and I moved to Shoreline about 30 months ago after 30 years in Seattle. I
Mhm.
retired in July and have since then been looking for a way to get involved in the community. And this looked like an opportunity that allowed me to do something to get started. I live
Excellent.
relatively close to the church. It'll be convenient for me to get there.
Good. Well, we'll have to talk to you about our NUSA meetings if you're looking to expand your activity in the community. Okay, thank you, Michael. Mallory.
Well, hello, everyone. My name's Mallory. I live in Shoreline, and this is going to be my first winter volunteering with the shelter. I'm really excited. I have the honor of working with a lot of these fantastic folks from NUSA during my day job, but I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to this training tonight.
Great. That's our Mallory. Okay, Brian and Megan.
Hello, I'm Brian Paterka and
I'm Megan Paterka.
live in Shoreline. And this will be our second year volunteering with this shelter. And we were involved with a share shelter in the U District for many years, and
Mhm.
happy to have one closer to home.
Great. Well, we're happy to accommodate.
I'm surprised
Okay.
my daughter's not on this thing, so I don't know if she got back to you, Celia, or not. But I mentioned it to her, and she sounded like she was going to be in the meeting. But I know she's interested, so I'll ask her again.
Okay, yeah, why don't you connect her with me? Be glad
Okay.
to talk to her.
And this training is being recorded, so she'll be able to just watch it. That'll be good. Okay, thank you. It's a family affair. Suzanne.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Guger. I lived in Shoreline for, gosh, it seems like 29 years now from Seattle, originally from Canada. And I have been recruited for this for quite a few years. And in the past, I kept thinking, too busy, but I've always in the back of my mind thought that I would want to volunteer for this project. So I'm excited to do it this year.
Terrific. Okay, thank you. Tamara. Or Tamara.
Yeah, it's Tamara.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. So I live in Lake Forest Park. This will be my first year volunteering. So I had applied last year. I think Celia had posted something about the shelter not being able to be open on one day because there wasn't enough volunteers because they had been volunteering for so many days, that week. And I just thought, I'm like, well, I can help. And so that's why I'm here. I just can't imagine the idea of there being people out there who want a warm place to go and they can't go there because there aren't enough volunteers.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that rationale with us. It's important. Okay. Thea, have we called you already?
It's actually me.
Oh, it's Lisa. Oh, Lisa, don't try to fool me. Okay, let me start over. Lisa, would you like to come into the meeting?
I'm so sorry. I even left this and tried again, and I don't know why I'm in my daughter's account. I'm Lisa. I'm the volunteer coordinator. It's good to see a lot of you back, and you'll hear a lot from me for scheduling and all that good stuff. If you don't hear from Celia first or Bethany first, you'll be hearing from me, and you'll have my cell phone number, and I'm there almost every opening and can help you through just about anything you need. I'm walking distance to the church, so it's super easy for me to get there and help out. So welcome.
Great. And Flemmy?
Well, it's actually Michael Fleming, but my cell phone is named oddly, so.
Oh, so I'm sorry. I thought it was maybe
okay.
the daughter of the other couple on the call.
No. I'm from Woodinville, and I volunteered at an overnight shelter with Pastor Kelly. And when that closed, this door opened, and I have enjoyed doing it. So I'm back again.
Wonderful. Okay, that's great. And I think I have, did I include everyone? If not, please jump in. I think that's it. Okay. So now we'll begin with Bethany.
after
she comes.
18 months, I could remember how to unmute myself. So just to give you a kind of an overview of what we're going to talk about today, I'll go through, I'm not going to read it, but I'll go through the handbook that will describe, that gives information on opening and closing. And I will start by saying everything I talk about or everything we talk about tonight will be provided to you via email. So again, won't read through it. And if you have questions, feel free to jump in and or raise your hand and ask as we go. Okay, let me try to remember how to share my screen and get the get it up here. All right. So lucky for us, and fortunately for us, St. Dunstan's is allowing us to, in partnership, use their church facility again. It worked great last year. So we're really thankful. That really cut down on a lot of the planning that we had to do. But again, the goal of the shelter is when it is under a certain degrees prediction for under 32 for 4 or more hours or a prediction of 2 or more inches of snow, we kind of get together and make a decision about activation of the shelter. So in looking at the weather ahead, there's lots of planning that Lisa and Celia do to just make sure we all know in plenty of time that we can do this. So here, let me go through here really quick. Again, Lisa's the main contact for staffing the shelter. And again, we also do have a recorded phone line that people can call, and it's updated on a daily basis by, I think it's 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, that the shelter is open that evening. And I also there's a blast message that's sent out to fire and police, our social services partners, and all that information. So folks that are out in the community, first responders that evening will know, and if they come into contact with someone, they'll know that the shelter is open. So again, COVID is still a thing. We all know it. We ask that if you do have a fever or you're symptomatic, that you decline from volunteering. All right, there's the address of the church. We're asking folks to arrive by 8 o'clock. We're usually there 7:30 or so getting ready. We do still have mask requirements for both volunteers and clients of the shelter. The housing outreach worker, her name is Carrie. She will be on available each night to come on for about 2 or 3 hours to again help folks get settled into the shelter, help us set up all of those things. We do have some setup that I'll go through as well. We do signage that says open and closed on the door, so folks will know. You're going to want to walk around and make sure that you know where the bathrooms are and the fire extinguishers and all of that. I know Celia has been communicating with everybody about the opportunity to come if you haven't been on site at the church to familiarize yourself with that. I will be there as well. So if you're new this year, that might be a good opportunity. If that date doesn't work for you, I think it's the 16th, if I can remember, the Saturday the 16th, connect with me and I'll work it out to have another time to meet you over there. So we do have a couple of things. We have a box of administrative things. We do ask folks, we have a sign-in sheet, we have a volunteer sign-in sheet. We do track volunteer hours. We do pay L&I in case there's any incidents or accidents. So you're covered as a volunteer from the city. We also have asked you to wear a name tag. There's all sorts of referral materials and extra masks as well. Again, we have a sign-in sheet and a shelter logbook and guest agreement forms. And I'll go over that just a little bit here. We're going to check the restrooms to make sure it's got all the supplies and it's clean and ready. And then we do have a diagram for laying out mats. And we've just generally done it. The north end of the room is for male identifying guests and the female identifying guests is on the south end. And that's obviously it's a flexible number and shifting, but we do like to set the mats out rather than just so that we can do for spacing versus just, handing a mat out because they are kind of thick and heavy. So again, all of this information will be sent to you and we'll have it available on site as well. So Pastor Kelly's going to go over some information about any conflict or de-escalation that may be necessary during the shelter activation. I think we found that it hasn't been too much of an issue, that most folks just want a safe place to sleep. But we will do some screening at the front for both COVID, and then we'll ask them to read the guest agreement and agree to it. And if they do seem symptomatic, there is a number to call, and it's in the information to King County, and there are other housing options available to folks if they are symptomatic. We're not able to handle pets in the facility at this point. I don't think that has been an issue in the past, but obviously we do accept shelter or service animals. Guests can have to surrender any knives or other weapons that they may have, and we have a container for that. Obviously, if they're in possession or use of any drugs, illegal drugs, that is a immediate not in agreement with the guest agreement that we do have. And if they refuse to leave, 911 would need to be called. Again, we can show them have them pick a mat. We are going to have coffee and tea available. And we do have, as we know, since we stored them all last year, we have plenty of blankets and sleeping bags available for folks that then they can actually take with them at the end of the evening if they so choose, or at the end of the day if they so choose. So lights are turned off about 10. We try to limit bathroom trips to about 10 minutes without being a policing event of that, but just to keep things moving in there. The church does have Wi-Fi, and that's posted, and they can use the outlets to charge their phones. And after folks are checked in, we do ask that volunteers should stay positioned in the main room. And for guests that do smoke, there is a small covered area right outside, and to do smoke breaks with the guest. And it is a general rule, if they come in once a night, there's not in and out kind of benefits included in that. So, and then again, since there's 2 volunteers, if one needs to sleep, that's totally fine. We ask that one volunteer stay awake at all times. And in the morning, we ask that guests are awoken about 6:45, and so that they're out the door around 7:30. The housing outreach worker, Carrie, will come back in the morning again to assist with this task, as well as hopefully making additional connections to those clients in the hopes of working them into housing options. And then if they need assistance with bus tickets and things like that, she has access to those things. We ask the guests to then wipe down with cleaning supplies and put away their mat, and have coffee and a snack to send them on their way in the morning. And again, if there's any doubt about your ability to handle a certain situation, do not hesitate to call 911. I'll take a pause here in my quick read. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Just a note on assisting folks with disabilities. One way to do that is to have plenty of room around their mat. If they do have a walker or a other aid device. And then also you can provide, again, a verbal orientation of the facility. And also if they have, there may be ways to help them communicate. We do have access to a language link. And that just reminded me, I should add that information in here, and I'll do that. So we can add that information if there's a language barrier as well. Again, weapons are not allowed. We need to keep that for them, and they can provide that. We can provide that back to them. And just here's a quick list of anything. Again, drugs and alcohol not allowed. Please make a note of exits when you check out the building, just to know the quickest way to get out. It does have, obviously it's fire safe. We do have fire will provide us they do a check of it for us. It's happening this week, just to make sure it's safe for folks to sleep in there. And there is very prominent signage that will show you where the fire extinguishers are. I'll let you read through the fire and earthquake, other things. So cleaning protocol. We do ask folks, we do supply all of this: gloves, and use a cleaning solution of 10% bleach and cold water and wipe all the mats and stack them, empty and clean out the coffee, sweep the floor, bleach mop the bathroom and clean the toilets and sinks, because just in the intent of leaving the space better than when we started using it. Empty the garbage and recycling into bins, and then check the smoking area to make sure that we've pulled in, we have like a cat litter bucket out there as well. One new mix this year is that due to the church moving forward with some activities in the church, we are no longer able to store our items just in the corner. So they're going to be stored out in a garage, just in the parking lot, which is great that we're able to do that. So that just we just may think we may need a little bit more time, you know, or yeah, just to be a little bit more direct with our cleanup and setup, because it just may take a little bit longer, especially if the weather is poor. So again, we're looking for volunteers to be all wrapped up and exiting the building by 8. And again, the housing outreach person will be there. And this is the COVID call center, where if someone shows up with COVID symptoms, we can refer them to that. And let me see. If there is, just to keep in mind as we go forward with this, if there is ever a confirmed COVID-19 case at the shelter, we will work with the Seattle-King County Health Department in terms of protocols for contact tracing. So we have a first aid kit, cleaning supplies. When you arrive, there's a thermostat to turn up, and then it may get a little bit cool in the evening, so please bring a couple of layers for you. And then here's probably the most important part. As Lisa mentioned, she's a volunteer coordinator. You're probably going to have the most contact with her after doing all the paperwork for the city. Here's the housing outreach contact. If there's any issues, there's my contact information, Celia's information, and then contacts at the church. So if there's ever anything with the building, those would be the people that we contact. So, and here again, all of this will be supplied. Did it change to arrive? Does it look like arrival checklist? I'm making sure my Zoom is working. Does it say arrive? Okay. Okay. Thanks, Heidi. This is the most kind of brief bulleted item in terms of arrival and departure that will be available and posted for folks. Yeah. So lays out all the things for everyone. Pretty easy to use it as a checklist. All right, does anybody have any questions on just the general nuts and bolts of this? Okay.
I have one question about the sleeping bags. Last year, there were a couple of spares, but my understanding is each person can bring their own sleeping bag, take it away when they leave. Is that correct? Still correct?
I would say that's correct. Heidi and Celia had them all washed that were left over at the end of last year, and they're cleaned and packed and ready to be brought back over to the church and then distributed if people want
And
them.
how many is that? Does anybody?
Oh, Celia, how many is that? A lot, I think.
I would say about a dozen, probably more. And it's a combination of sleeping bags and blankets. So we do have lots of options for folks. And they can take it with them at the end of the night. Or if they would like to leave it there, we also provide these plastic bags where they can put that sleeping bag in and then put their name on the bag, and then we keep it for them for the next time.
Okay, thank you. I mean, a dozen sleeping bags to me doesn't sound like a ton.
Well,
most of these folks are going to bring warm, I mean, almost all of them are going to bring blankets and or sleeping bags. And if we run out,
okay,
we will certainly be able to find more easily.
Yeah. We provided some from our church, and I'm just ready to do that if needed.
Awesome. Thank you for that offer. And I know St. Dunstan's, their church, they did like a coat drive and a sock drive. And so there may be some other things that are available for the folks to take and use as needed at the site. And And the other thing to know is if you're finding in your volunteering that we're out of socks or we're out of something else, please let Celia and I know, and we will make sure that we have the supplies that we need to make sure folks are taken care of. The whole point of coming inside and getting warm is to get inside and get warm and get food and get coffee and all that. So we want to make sure that it's a good experience. So please let us know if there's anything as we go through this. Celia, it felt like a 10 when we were putting it in the storage. So maybe
So I was just thinking about that it was a whole lot more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to move it over in Celia's van and then meet at our storage facility and it felt like a lot. So I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
anyway.
that was North City Cleaners actually
Yeah.
donated the cleaning for us, and I think there were over 15, including.
Just of sleeping bags. And I think there might have been there were additional ones that I cleaned at home, and then there are blankets as well. So we should have plenty to start with.
To start with, yeah, for sure. Okay, all right, I will. And then now I need to move on to, I got 2 more things to cover. If that works, is the bloodborne pathogen part of this, and then just talk a little bit about what it means to be a city volunteer and the paperwork that goes along with that. So let me see if this works. Do you see a presentation? Oh man, I'm nailing this today. Finally getting the Zoom thing down. All right. So I want to provide some information to you in accordance with all of the wonderful codes of Washington about bloodborne pathogens. So I will just move through this. Oh, see, I didn't nail it. I did not do a good job. Okay, here we go. There we go. So again, after this, you should know what bloodborne pathogens are, common ways you're exposed. We do provide kits on site at the shelter for folks if you do run into any bloodborne pathogens, and anything for cleaning up, and there is a reporting process as well. So what would you do in this situation? Obviously, that is blood involved. And so there is the possibility of being a bloodborne pathogen. So as a city volunteer, this is something that we need to go through to make sure that you're aware of what to do in this manner, in this case, and that there is a possibility of being exposed to these pathogens. So they're present in the blood, and they can cause human disease. They're also present in this whole list of other things: saliva, other bodily fluids, urine, vomit, feces, variety of bodily fluids. So pathogens are things that can cause disease, and some examples are listed there: viruses, bacterial, fungi, and even parasites. So hepatitis B is a bloodborne virus and a bloodborne pathogen that actually, as part of your volunteer service, we either ask you to let us know that you either are vaccinated against hepatitis B, decline to be vaccinated against hepatitis B, or we will actually pay for the vaccination series if you would like. So that's something that you would work with me to get taken care of. So a couple of ways that viruses can be transmitted. You can inhale them. I think we're all familiar with these from COVID, right? Lots of talk about inhaling and all these other things. You can ingest them in contaminated food or water, or it can get directly into your blood, so blood-to-blood transfusion. So the pathogens enter the body through being cut with the same knife, a contaminated instrument, from a break in the skin, from your membranes in your eyes, nose, and mouth, and in other ways. So we do want to train and provide all these tools in order to use precaution when dealing, or when possibly dealing with bloodborne pathogens. So we're asking folks to use these precautions in order to reduce the chance of transmitting them or receiving them. So again, these are kind of standard precautions that we ask folks to follow. So any bodily fluid, we're saying, is considered to be potentially infectious. So cleaning the restrooms in the morning, cleaning the bathrooms. We provide gloves and all of that in order to reduce the chance of transmission. So we do have these infection control kits that we provide in case there is blood or other material. And they are, again, provided, and we'll make sure folks know where they are. And again, cleanup, kind of use your best judgment as you would in most situations, right? We're going to keep the area clean of other folks, use all the protective equipment that we're providing. We're going to scrape and scoop the solid waste, cover any spiller area with the rags provided. And then there is just disinfection in the kits, and then leave it on for at least 10 minutes. We do provide in that infection kit a biohazard bags. Place everything inside. And then finally, we know how to do this. It's been COVID. We wash our hands. We sing the happy birthday song with hot water, right? We're still doing the happy birthday song, or is there another song? But lots of washing of the hands. One of the items that we do also have available is we do put a sharps kit in each of the restrooms. And like I said, the city provides that and keep it safe. But yeah. The moral of the story with sharps is don't put your hand inside, never try to recap the needles. And then if they are getting close to getting full, that you contact me and let me know. I would like to say we had a pretty big sharps container. It wasn't even close last year. So it's not really a huge issue that you should come be concerned about. But again, we do supply those in the restrooms. All right, so getting to the end of this. If you ever do have a case where you're using the infection prevention kit, cleaning up some blood or other materials, we ask that you do submit an exposure or a incident report related to this, and that you let me know about it. If you are interested, if you haven't received the Hep B vaccine and that's something that you're interested in doing, we can set that up for you, and the city does pay for that as well. And we also ask that you let Celia and I know as soon as possible that there's been an incident where this has happened, and then we can help us and make the correct next steps in order to make sure everyone's as protected as possible. And again, there is this incident packet. And again, this has not been a situation that's happened in the history of the shelter, but it is something we just need to make sure everyone's trained and prepared for. Does anybody have any questions?
I just want to clarify, Bethany, that when people do their site visit that you'll point these things out to them. And if you want to see where the bags are and what that looks like, there will be an opportunity to look at that a little bit more carefully then.
Yeah, and as Lisa said, I was there the first couple of nights. I know Lisa's there almost every night. So even the first couple of times folks are there, you do have additional resources and people that are there to make sure that it goes as smoothly as possible. And especially for setup and just making sure everyone knows. And again, we really want to make sure that you're comfortable as a volunteer and you have all the information that you need in order to have this be a good experience for you as a volunteer and for the clients and the folks that are spending the night at the church. So, all right, I will wrap it up before I pass it over to Pastor Kelly, just to talk about what it means to be a city volunteer. And so one of the things that I will be sending, oh, I see a hand up, Mallory.
Yes. Hi, Bethany. Thank you.
Hi.
I'm wondering if, never mind, I see bullet point 4. Never mind my question.
Okay. Yes. Oh, you're beating me to the punch. So what you'll receive is I'm calling the volunteer packet. So as part of this partnership with NUSA, who does so much of the legwork when it comes to this, is that we have you be a city volunteer so that you're covered by, like I said, our L&I. And that we also do a background check on folks because this is a vulnerable population and we just want to make sure everyone is safe. So there is a volunteer service agreement that I will ask you to read, sign, and return to me. And it does make mention of COVID-19 about the risks that folks are taking by doing this volunteer activity. We also have you fill out, so that's 1. 2 is this notification and authorization for a background check. It is a Washington State background check. And yeah, we just, like I said, it is a policy of the city. Any either staff or volunteers that are working with youth or vulnerable populations, we do a background check for. I did mention Hep B. You either sign the form saying you're declining the vaccine or stating that you have, oh, yes, Mike.
Just a question as far as if we did all that paperwork with the city last year, do we have to redo it for this year or are we still good?
We do have to redo it. The background check has to be done minimally on a 12-month basis. So I will say, Mike, that, so this is where it gets a little bit, not weird, but like if the folks that I already know, I don't necessarily need to meet you and see your ID, but if you are new to the program, I do need to make sure that you're representing yourself. I know that sounds weird, but we just need to make sure that we're keeping folks as safe as possible. So I do need to see the ID so I can run your background check. And that's the kind of thing that I can meet. I think I met Mike at City Hall on some random day last year. I will meet you wherever. I'll meet you at a Starbucks in your neighborhood. I'll meet you at City Hall. We'll make it work. But again, I'm really just trying to make sure that we're being just as safe as possible with this. So I like to make sure I actually visually get a check on ID so that it matches up with what the background check we're running. So just to wrap up the Hep B, again, it's sort of 3 choices there. Either you're not vaccinated and you'd like the city to pay for you, and we take care of that. 2, you say, I'm declining it, I'm good. Or kind of related to 2 would be, I'm already vaccinated. So that there's a form that we ask you to submit for that. The 4th one is new. Just last night, the city council made vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination, a condition of city employment or volunteering. And that covers this shelter. So to do that, and again, I'll be sending out more information on that, it requires 2 pieces of documentation. 1, proof of vaccine, which is either your printout from your doctor, a picture of your COVID-19 CDC card, and there's a couple other items that are also eligible. I think there's a state registry printout you could get. And then there's a form that it's an attestation that says, I swear that this is real proof of my vaccination. So yeah. Does anybody have any questions about the paperwork part? Great. Celia, did I miss anything?
I think
So much talking. Okay, great. Well, I just one more thing before I pass it on to Pastor Kelly. It's so heartening to see so many people on this call tonight and willing to do this, and it's exciting. So thank you, everybody. Pastor Kelly.
Thank you. I think you may have said it, but I just want to be clear. While we are screening for COVID or symptoms, we're not requiring guests to be vaccinated.
We are not. We are not.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I don't think I
Yeah.
did.
Right. No, I wasn't sure. So good to see all of you. I agree. I'm very grateful to see several of you coming back again. And so this is an exact repeat, really, although I never say the same thing twice. So there's a bit of ad-libbing. But I think we shared this document with you last year, just 2-sided tips about de-escalating. I think Bethany mentioned it. I'm not sure if Lisa did, but I don't know that we've ever, in the years that we've done this now, had an incident that wasn't able to be managed by the volunteers. I know there were, I think maybe once or twice, somebody had to be asked to leave and they left without much of a fuss. So again, this is one of those situations where it's good information to have. If you have children or teenagers or you're around them, it's really great information to have. And it's one of the best places to practice, toddlers and teenagers. So I'm going to sort of move through it quickly, see if you have questions. and we'll go from there. This is not really a substitute for any kind of big formal de-escalation training. So if you have access to those are great. I've been working with folks who are homeless, which often means dealing with mental illness or drug addiction or substance use abuse disorder or both. And so that's where typically something can, folks are not at their best when they're dealing with adverse conditions, being homeless, combined with some kind of mental illness that they struggle with, medicated or not, and or substance use disorder. So I'll reiterate this. I'm going to say it more than once. If someone becomes agitated and you are not, you and or the other host don't feel like you can handle it, then call 911. We're not asking you to be a hero. Ideally, the Shoreline Police are going to know about the shelter. They're going to know about the activation. They're going to be ready and aware, and they will ask a few questions if you call, like, do they have a weapon, et cetera, those kind of things. And so you can just let them know there's just whatever the situation is. So if someone becomes agitated and you feel like things are getting a little bit out of hand, do make sure the other host is awake. And then if one or the other of you feel more comfortable handling the situation, then that person should handle it, but not both, because it gets confusing if two people are trying to deal with one individual de-escalating. And the other person can be ready, sort of observing from afar, ready to call 911 if necessary, just if necessary. So we want you to be safe. We want them to be safe. We want the other guests to be safe. So just work through this as best as possible. No matter what, don't touch them. Really ever, unless I think as the assisting someone with a disability, but essentially your hands should never touch the other person, and ideally theirs shouldn't touch you either. We're going to try to work to make sure that doesn't happen. As best as you can, keep a safe distance. Try to find out what's happening. I mean, they may have a very good reason to be agitated. They felt a bug bite them, or they woke up from a terrible dream. And when possible, try to have something between you and them, if that's possible, or at least have something nearby, maybe lean on a chair that you could move in front of you or step behind if you felt like you needed to. Have a sense of your surroundings, know where there is an exit, not just an exit from the building, but an exit from the conversation, so that you don't get trapped into a corner or behind a desk. I mean, it should be easy enough, just don't back yourself into a corner. Keep in mind, if someone is in a heightened state of agitation, generally they're not able to hear clearly and process information as they normally would. This is where it works really well with toddlers and teenagers. Teenagers who are screaming and agitated, toddlers, they're not hearing what you're saying rationally. So you really need to work to kind of bring things down to where they can hear you. And when someone's either dealing with a substance or a mental health crisis, that's even more so. They will not be able to just listen to your instructions and do what you say. Stay as calm and as grounded as possible in the moment, no matter what's going on inside of you. You might be angry, frustrated. You might want to yell at them. You might be afraid. You might feel terrified. As much as possible, don't show it. That's easier said than done sometimes, but as much as you can, just try to stay calm. You don't have to deny what's going on inside you. Recognize, look, yeah, I'm scared. Okay. But you don't have to show that to them, or being angry, especially anger. That's really never helpful. A power struggle with someone in this situation is going to end badly for everyone. Use their name unless they tell you to stop. Like if somebody says, stop calling me that, stop saying, well, just don't. But when you can, it helps to kind of, Heidi, I just want to be able to help you. So if you can let me know, and you don't have to overdo it, but just, it kind of, I see you as a person. As much as possible, take your cues from them, but do what you can to be the mirror that you want for them. So you're not mirroring their activity, you're trying to get them to mirror you. So you're seeing them and you're taking your cues from them, but you're trying to be calm and not defensive. So you're not standing with your hands on your hips. Never put your hands behind you or in your pockets. For one, you want to have them available in case you need to stop, but also if you have them hidden, they might wonder what you're doing with your hands. What are you hiding? What do you have there? Try to ask gentle questions to understand what's going on. Jackie, can you tell me what's happened? What could I do to be helpful for you right now? How about if we sit down and talk about what's going on? You know, if you can, as much as possible, bring things down. So if you're at a standing position, you want to work to be in a sitting position with them, not you sitting and them standing over you. Listen, I mean, truly listen and be empathetic. And sometimes when you're at a heightened state of fear or agitation, it's hard for you to listen. So you're working for them to do that. So as much as you can, try to just hear what is happening to them, even if it doesn't make sense to you. Never match their level of volume or their tone or their posturing. If they're yelling, you're working to keep your voice lower than theirs, right? So, I mean, even sometimes whispering. Best second grade teacher I ever saw for one of my children. You could go in there in that classroom and you could hear her whisper because those kids, they become very attentive. Now, if that's irritating to them, don't keep whispering. You know, I mean, I'm just sort of, these are sort of tactics. You obviously want them to be able to hear you. So you may need to, if you have to pierce you might yell their name for them to be able to just sort of shock them for a moment, but you don't want to yell at them. So like, Heidi, what I'd really like right now. So sometimes it's helpful to practice too. So if you have someone at home you can practice with, that's not bad. Focus on feelings. If someone is scared, angry, acknowledge it, and affirm it. It's reasonable. Their feeling is normal. No matter what happened, they have a feeling. And that's true for you. If you're angry, somebody telling you, just calm down. How helpful is that? It's never helpful. So just, I understand you're angry. Well, this is, let's see if we can figure out what's going on and see if we can figure out how to resolve this. You can only work with the thoughts and the behaviors that are associated with the feelings. You can't conquer feelings. You can't erase them. Worst thing in the world that I deal with on a regular basis is people who are feeling sad or depressed or grieving, and people coming and telling them, well, you should probably just go outside and be, have some fun, enjoy yourself. Well, thanks for that. That's not really how depression and grief work. Don't get trapped by challenging questions. Like if someone says, do you think I'm crazy? What are you trying to do? Kick me out? Don't answer those. And don't say no. I mean, don't say, I'm not trying to kick you out. Just try to move on from the question without answering it. Redirect if you have to. Why don't we just step over here away from everybody who's trying to sleep, just a little bit out of the way, and see if we can work something out. What would be really helpful for me, just because I'm feeling a little tense right now, what if we just both took a deep breath? That would be able to help me really kind of listen to what you're saying. Let them know how their actions or words or volume are affecting you. So if you are feeling a little bit afraid or intimidated, you can let them know, hey, Mike, I'm not used to people yelling at me. And honestly, this is a little intimidating. So would you be able to just lower your voice for a minute so I can be at a better place to help you? Because that's really what I want to do. And again, that is what you want to do. You're there to help them. You're not going to be their therapist or their counselor, but you're there to help them have a safe and warm place. And if they end up getting kicked out, they're not going to have that. So if a person seems to be calming down, or if it seems they're not able to, it's helpful to set some limits. I'm going to be able to help you, but I'm going to need you to lower your voice to be able to do that. for me to be able to help you stay the night, I'm gonna need you to just kind of lower your volume, maybe stop using the words that you're using. For me to be able to process what you're saying, I need to let's just sit down together. So setting some kind of boundary, some kind of limits. Offer a choice. Lead with the positive choice. I want you to be able to lower your voice and be able to stay safe and warm inside tonight, rather than having me to ask you to leave or call the police to have you leave. I mean, don't threaten that unless it's necessary, and then follow back with the positive. I hope you'd rather lower your voice and just stay the night. So it's basically a sandwich of, here's the positive, here's the alternative, here's the positive. Again, redirect and sandwiches. Would you like an extra blanket, some hot chocolate? Would that help? Or do you feel like you need to leave? I'd really rather like to get you an extra blanket. And sometimes they'll say they need to leave. And that's all right. I mean, that's a resolution. It's not what you're going for, but if they're so agitated and they can't be in the space and that's what they've identified, okay, good for them that they were able to come to that. But hopefully, again, you're able to help them get a little calmer and get some resolution so that they can stay. Don't offer something you can't follow through on, and don't threaten something you can't follow through on. If you can, if you sit down, you can spend the night. That's not necessarily true. If they sit down and they keep screaming, they're not going to be able to spend the night. But you can, if you sit down, I think we can try to work through this. If you calm down, I'll call the president like you want to. Don't promise that. I mean, you can call, I suppose. I just don't think you're going to get through. Allow some space and some silence in this process, which I'm not doing very much of because I'm trying to get through it. Breathe. Sometimes that mirroring, if you just take a deep breath, they don't even pay attention to it. They don't see it. They just catch a deep breath themselves. And sometimes that's what they need to reflect and calm down. Breathing, silence, as long, again, as it's not agitating. If they end up yelling at you, well, say something, answer me. Do what you can to respond gently. Affirm any positive step they make. If they lower their voice, thank them. If they sit down, let them know that really helps you feel calm and that you can help them resolve things. And then finally, once hoping things get back to normal and calm enough, do what you can to not provoke them, right? Like even if that means just it's over and you are done, you can just go away and kind of keep an eye on them. But what you don't want to do is, I'm glad we were able to work through that. I need to be clear that if you yell at anyone else tonight, I'm going to ask you to leave and not come back. You've just made another threat and agitation that wasn't necessary. So let it calm down and let it go. And that's it. That's what I have for you. There's a whole lot more that we could cover, but really, I don't think you need more than that. And once more, if at any point along the way, you or the other volunteer feel threatened, feel that someone else is threatened, one of the other guests, or that this person is going to be a danger to themselves, then call 911. Right? Any questions about that, about de-escalating, about steps to take? Several of you have done this for a long time. You could talk about this too. I have every confidence that you, along with a partner especially, will be able to just be the best hosts and give these folks a good place to be warm and safe.
Thank you, Kelly.
Sure.
Looks like there aren't any questions. It's not too late. But
I have one question.
Yes.
What's your feeling, Pastor Kelly, about two women doing the shelter as opposed to a man and a woman? Last year, when it was my first year, I asked if I could be with a man. I'm just wondering if there's a feeling about that.
I think that is all about how you feel about it, honestly. One of our most effective volunteers at the church, I mean, they were all effective, Mike, I want to say, but Judy B. Wilson, so at our shelter, we had 10 people. It was long-term, and it was one volunteer per night, one host. We didn't have two. And Judy B's retired. I don't know how old she is. She had hip surgery at one point. And she volunteered by herself. She was the mother, to them, and she could talk to them in ways that I couldn't. So I'd say if you don't feel comfortable, then make that request by all means. No one needs to be pushed to do something that makes them feel uncomfortable, including de-escalation. I mean, I would take situations that I would never encourage other folks to step into. Because I know, well, for one, I'm a man, I'm a white man. I've been doing this a long time. I've had a lot of these encounters. That's where I am. So I would say, Florence and everybody else, if you feel like you would prefer to work with with a male volunteer or another male volunteer, just let Lisa know.
Thank you.
And speaking of Lisa, was communicating with her offline here. And maybe, Lisa, if you want to just take a couple of minutes to give an overview of a couple of things. And everything that we talk about here tonight will also be sending to you in written form or reiterating in emails. So don't feel like you have to remember everything tonight. But Lisa, I'll give you the floor for a few minutes here.
I don't know if I'm glitching out or if other people are, so sorry if I get stuck. So if you haven't been a part of this before, you'll get a questionnaire from me, and you can tell me what days you are available or which ones you definitely aren't available. It can be I can never work on Tuesdays. It can be I can always work on Saturdays. It can be please don't ever schedule me to, I see there goes my Wi-Fi.
No, you're doing fine.
Okay, my thing just said your bandwidth is low. It can be please don't ever schedule me 2 days in a row. Please don't ever schedule me 2 days in a week. Any requests that you have, and I'll put them into a schedule to make sure that your requests are taken into account. And then several days ahead of time, if we're seeing that we're getting into a stretch of weather, I will reach out and make sure that however I have you scheduled is still good with you. If you're matched up with somebody that you are uncomfortable with volunteer wise, the man-woman thing, or whatever it is. And then the night before is when we make the go, no go. So you'll know the night before that we want you to volunteer the following night. I will change the message on the hotline in the morning. I will update the Facebook page so that, and it's pinned to the top, that we will be open that evening so that guests know, volunteers know, the community knows, and that's how we often get offers for additional sleeping bags or ramen or whatever it is, and sometimes extra volunteers, like knowing that we were not able to open that last night because we didn't have enough volunteers last year. So yeah, and then there's the email that goes out to the first responders and community that need to know so that they can send guests our way. That goes out to, and if you'd like to be on that list, I don't typically email all the volunteers when we're going to be open. So if you want to know, regardless of whether you're working that night or not, you can be on that list also and get notified every time that we open, just like police and HopeLink and everybody else. So, we'll, so you'll see Celia will give me the list of people that are interested in volunteering this year. And shortly after that, you'll see that questionnaire come out for me, and then we'll just start dialoguing, and it will come not from my email and not from Celia's, it will come from the emergency shelter Gmail account. So, if you don't see anything, check your spam and make sure that we're not ending up there. So, and that's that.
Well, I can see that everybody is incredibly de-escalated. I know I feel like I've had a massage. Thank you, Pastor Kelly. Peace, love, and look at Suzanne's dog. The dog is absolutely, look at that. That is de-escalation personified.
I thought it was like a furry blanket. I didn't see the head. So
Oh,
I was
no,
trying to understand.
earlier, the head was just looking at her like,
Yeah,
Uh,
well, when
yeah.
I get home from work, he just follows me around the house.
Of
So
course, of
Yes.
course.
as soon as I sat down, he ran up little stairs here and ran behind me. So it's like, whatever.
I have stairs for mine too. We'll have to talk. Anyway, if we don't have additional questions, we're actually almost on time at 8:06. This is just the beginning. If you have other questions at any time, you know who to contact. If you have ideas or concerns, anything, we're available, and we're thrilled that you've stepped up to help us with our severe weather shelter this season. I'll look one more time, see if there are any questions. I don't see any questions. No, I see happy faces. Come on, Mike, give me a happy face. There you go. I see happy faces. and I wish all of us a good season. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for learning about bodily fluids and necessary processes, as well as de-escalating. I think we should do this every night about this time. You notice that it's true. Kelly not only brings the conversation to a healthy level, but the speed of his speech lulls you into a spot where you can hear and where you can
That's from a lot of
contribute.
sermons. I lull people to sleep on a regular basis on Sundays. Now I'm
Looks
gonna
like-
yell at my teenager now.
Okay, well, dial me in and I'll help you de-escalate. Okay. Anyway, thank you for coming tonight. This is wonderful. We'll have a good year for sure. And if you have friends that would like to join you, we can get them trained, because you're all now part of a major feature film called the Noosa Severe Weather Shelter with the City of Shoreline. So you're a star, every one of you. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Night.
Right.
And
Night,
I'll
Mike.
follow up with an email.
Good night.
Bye. Thank you.